I would like to call the regular meeting of the Planning Commission to order at 6:04, please. Pledge of Allegiance, I would like to call upon Commissioner Jimenez to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Please stand. Over your heart, ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Commissioner Jimenez. Planning Secretary, may I have a roll call vote, please?
Most definitely, Madam Chair. Commissioner Flores,
Present.
Commissioner Jimenez,
Present.
Commissioner Mora,
Present.
Vice Chair Ayala,
Present.
Chair Carbajal,
Present.
all present.
Thank you. Ex parte communications. This section is intended to allow all officials the opportunity to reveal any disclosure regarding site visits or ex parte communications about public hearings. Are there any ex parte communications? Starting with Commissioner Flores,
None.
Commissioner Jimenez,
None.
Commissioner Mora,
None.
Vice Chair Ayala,
None.
Chair Carbajal, none. Public comments. At this time, the general public may address the Planning Commission on both non-agenda and agenda items. Please be aware the maximum allotted time for members of the public to speak shall not exceed 3 minutes per speaker. State law prohibits the Planning Commission from taking action or entertaining extended discussion on a topic not listed on the agenda. Planning Secretary, do we have any members of the public present that wish to speak today?
Sorry, I'm having technical difficulties. And we do have various members of the public here, but they are for item number 1, and they will be allowed to speak during public comments. At this time, I don't have any raise hand functions going on via Zoom either. No.
Thank you. I will now close public comment and move on to the next item. Planning Commission agenda for public hearing number 1. Public hearing continued from September 11th, zone determination ZD, case number 2023-01, to determine that a battery energy storage system with direct connection to a public utility grid is a similar or compatible use with other similarity principally permitted uses listed in the ML limited manufacturing zone and adopted to a notice of exemption under CEQA section 15061B3 common sense exemption, Gridstore LLC. I would like to call upon planning consultant Alejandro de Liora to provide a presentation regarding my item 1.
Good evening, Commissioners. Today I will be presenting on zone determination 2023-01. And the use to be determined today is going to be for battery energy storage systems. The location here would be a citywide action, specifically with staff recommending the use in the M2 zone. The applicant is Gridstore LLC, and the reason for this request and the purpose of it is that battery energy storage systems are currently not listed in the zoning ordinance. So as a result, this determination will help us to see where they should be allowed. And throughout, I will be interchangeably using BESS and battery energy storage systems. So if those come up, that's equivalent. So just a little bit reminder on zone determinations. This zone determination would allow the Planning Commission to make a decision of where a battery energy storage system shall be allowed. Similar uses are generally examined just to show how the use is similar to already permitted and listed uses within the zoning ordinance. And based on the existing land uses that are listed within our zoning ordinance, we believe that best use is most similar to an electric distribution substation use. So the request again is to determine that a battery energy storage system with direct connection to a public utility grid is a similar and compatible use with other similarly principally permitted uses listed in the M2 heavy manufacturing zone. So why battery energy storage and why is this coming up? So within Senate Bill 100, SB 100, California outlined their goal to receive and to achieve 100% electric retail sales from renewable and zero carbon resources by 2045. And within their annual reporting, it was included that 48,600 megawatts of new battery storage would need to be installed between 2020 and 2045 to help facilitate that goal. So these battery energy storage systems as proposed here are considered a public good. They are utility scaled operations. These would not be for private use. And they're considered a big component in helping prevent blackouts and just providing more and new energy and grid resilience to the public utility grid. And they would also be considered to help with pricing. They would help with long-term stabilization of demand-based electricity, which is what a lot of local utility providers are leaning towards now for their electric pricing. So a little bit more about these BESS units. These are utility scale and they're comprised of lithium ion batteries, and they're within enclosure units as the one that is pictured up here looks like. And these batteries, together with the equipment that's on site, the substation, would connect directly to the public utility grid. And the way this would work is that they would receive electricity from those larger electricity transmission towers. They would store the energy within the batteries and those enclosure units, and they would then distribute the energy back into the grid when it is necessary and required. So again, how are these similar to a substation? There's 5 main components that we've identified here, and the first 2 being that it receives those electrical transmissions and it distributes that electricity back into the grid. Similar to a substation, they also have equipment on site that help control and monitor the use's operation throughout. There's also safety features specifically for high voltage electricity, which would also be found within the substation. And finally, they are unmanned and unattended, with the exception of some occasional on-site maintenance that would be required. So really, we see this as an extension and kind of a modern substation, just helping provide that needed infrastructure for the grid. And this is supported through AB Assembly Bill 2868, which identified that the local utility providers would be required to provide certain amounts of battery storage to be connected as part of their service as well. So elaborating a little bit more on that substation interpretation, we wouldn't be the first ones to make that determination with this. The County of Los Angeles also defined within a memorandum that for the purposes of land use, that energy storage systems would be most similar to electric distribution substations. Similarly, the city of Lancaster found that these types of BESS units would be and should be permitted by right in industrial zones, which is what we are also proposing in this request. And finally, the California Public Utilities Commission defines energy storage systems as kind of a whole operation. So that includes the absorbing of energy, storing it for a period of time, and then dispatching that energy back into the grid. So that would apply to both substations and to these types of systems as well. As for the public hearing, this was published in the Whittier Daily News on August 31st. It was also posted in City Hall, the Town Center kiosk, and in the City Library. We did provide a notice to property owners within a 500-foot radius of an originally prospective site that was submitted with the application. And that was just done as an abundance of caution, just to provide noticing to a prospective site. And with that noticing, we did receive opposition letters, and those were received on September 8th, October 9th, and November 13th. So with that, we did continue the item at a public hearing in the Planning Commission dates of September 11th and October 9th, just to allow staff additional time to respond to the comment letters that were received. So the public comments. The first main letter was received by a group that was opposing the project, submitted on behalf of Bridgeland. And within that letter, they identified 3 main opposition points. The first being that these BESS units are not similar and compatible to other principally permitted uses in the M2 zone, that the use should require a CUP at the minimum, and that the proposed project highlights risk of allowing battery storage systems. And I will go deeper into each of these topics as well too. As well as the letters that were received from the resident opposition. And these mainly focused on battery energy storage uses proposing a unique risk and explaining that there should be a full safety and environmental review that should be completed for the projects. Additionally, there were several site-specific questions that were relating to the original site that was attached to the application. But specifically for this request, this is only a zone determination, so there's going to be no specific site that's under review at this time. So summarizing those public comments, kind of broke them down into three main components. The first being that if the use is similar and compatible to other uses in the M2 zone, if and why it should be principally permitted, and the safety features of these types of uses. So for similar and compatible, we do find or recommend that these be found similar to a substation, really with the exception that these best uses can also store the energy for a period of time compared to a substation. There's already currently several substations within the city, including one at 14127 Carbonita Road and another at 12714 Los Nietos, among others. And with that, it is already proven that these types of uses can be compatible within the M2 zone, considering that substations are already a permitted use within the ML zone and therefore permitted in the ML, M1, and M2 zones by right as well. As for being principally permitted, since electrical distribution substations are already permitted by right in the ML, M1, and M2 zones, we feel that the similar should apply for these types of uses as well, if they are found to be similar to the substation. In addition to substations, we also find that these types of uses could be similar to another type of use that's principally permitted within the M2 zone, which would be the public utility service yards. And these similar uses would indicate that a BESS would similarly be permitted by right within the M2 zone. And finally, as the safety, and this is safety for all types of typical BESS units and BESS systems. These are remotely operated and individually monitored at the cellular level, so each component of regulation towards it. And if a battery ever shows any signs of malfunctioning or anything like that, they're kind of designed to prevent any kind of future risk and kind of shut down, and then that's to pass an inspection before they're able to go live again. And also the enclosures are increasingly becoming more effective at containing any possible damage or mitigating any fires or thermal runaway events that occur within those units. So really they're meant to kind of, if anything happens, to be confined to that specific unit as opposed to being able to catch and spread to other portions of the facility. And all parts of this, again, the enclosures, the batteries, the installation, and the equipment, they all have to meet certain state and local safety standards. And all of this would, of course, be reviewed by the city's planning, building, and fire departments prior to any permits or any sites being authorized or allowed in a specific location. As for the environmental review, since this request is specifically just for a zone determination, we do recommend that the project be exempt from CEQA according to section 15061B3, the common sense exemption. And that's because the action being taken tonight would just be an interpretation of the zoning ordinance. There would be no specific site that's being evaluated at this moment. Each individual project would, at the time of submittal, be subject to CEQA analysis. So the key considerations here are, again, that this is a zone determination. There's not a specific site being reviewed as of this moment. BESS, we consider to be part of a public utility grid as an extension of the existing electric grid. It would help facilitate meeting California's green and renewable energy goals, find to be similar to substations and public utility service yards, both of which are permitted by right. And those uses are, again, permitted by right in the M2 zone. And this is an important finding as per section 155.241Y of the zoning ordinance. And all safety measures associated with these BESS uses would be reviewed by the city for all future projects. So we do recommend that the Planning Commission take action in accordance with the recommendations of the staff report, which include approving zone determination case number 202301 and to find the project exempt from CEQA and to adopt resolution number 250-2023. Thank you.
Thank you. Do any of the commissioners have any questions on this item for the planning staff, please? None? Okay, hearing none, is there anyone from the audience wishing to speak on this matter? If so, please use the raise hand function or approach the podium. Do we have any speakers, ma'am?
With the applicant first?
Okay.
Or, no?
So the applicant actually is the city, even though
I
Yeah.
Grid
apologize, you
Storage,
are
so the
correct.
applicant's the city, so you can just,
Open up to the
Comments.
public.
My apologies. Jackson McNeil is our first speaker.
Please state your name and city of residence for the record to address the planning commission. Also, please note there is a 3-minute time limit for each speaker, please.
All right. Whoa. I'm ready. Good evening, commissioners. My name is Jackson McNeil. I'm a land use attorney with Elkins Calt, and I represent Bridgeland Resources. Tonight, you have the opportunity to protect this community and deny zone determination. Staff, and as you'll hear from GridStore, will tell you that you can approve the zone determination because in their view, battery storage uses are similar to electric distribution substations. Respectfully, this commission knows better. Yes, they both use transformers and circuits and switch yards, and yes, they both send and receive electricity. But an adult bookstore is not the same as a Barnes and Noble just because they both sell magazines. You have to look past superficial physical similarities. In fact, battery storage uses typically are much, much larger than electric distribution substations. I started my career as a utility lawyer. I can tell you that SoCal Edison probably is not going to build the biggest substation that they can. But tonight, you already have an applicant with plans who's ready to build a 9-acre, 10-parcel project. And I guarantee that if you allow this use by right in this city, especially in the M2 zone, it's only a matter of time before you have applications for 25, 50, or even 100-acre projects. But just to state the more obvious physical difference, right? Substations don't use batteries. Battery storage uses do use batteries. They use lots and lots and lots of lithium-ion batteries, typically arranged in a grid. And that presents risks and impacts that you don't see in substations. I'm sure that GridStore is going to tell you that their operations are perfectly safe. We heard some of that from staff. But when's the last time you heard of a substation fire or a substation explosion? You haven't, okay? But just a couple of years ago, last year, the Valley Center project in San Diego, a battery storage project, caught fire. That was the second fire at that facility. There have been battery storage fires in California, in New York, in Arizona. And we admit it's not common. It doesn't happen all the time, but it does happen. It's a real risk. There is a risk of fire. There is a risk of explosion. People do get hurt. And the California Public Utilities Commission has not sufficiently regulated this area yet. These are real risks that make battery storage uses really different and incompatible with other uses in the M2 zone. And look, you know, we heard some jurisdictions may treat battery storage uses and substations similarly. You know, frankly, we disagree with staff's characterization of how other jurisdictions in Southern California have treated those uses. But I want you to know that other jurisdictions, other local communities have taken a different approach. Just in the last 2 months, local communities in Sullivan, New York, in Racket Lake, New York, in Jefferson County, Tennessee, have adopted bans or moratoriums on battery storage uses because they understood that battery storage uses are different. They took the decision to protect their community. This commission has to make its own decision with its own findings tonight, and it should make the decision to protect this community and deny the zone determination. Thank you, and I welcome any questions.
Thank you.
Good evening, commissioners. My name is Justin Trujillo. I'm a land use attorney from Elkins Calt. I also represent Bridgeland Resources. I had a couple issues I wanted to raise with respect to this zone determination. First, staff says that this is not subject to the California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA. Respectfully, that's incorrect. We don't expect you to be experts on CEQA, but here's what you need to know. In general, CEQA requires that the city conduct environmental review whenever it takes discretionary action. This includes things like when the city adopts a land use ordinance or amends the general plan, but it also includes you, the planning commission, when you consider a discretionary land use application like a zone determination. Now, there are exemptions from CEQA, and here staff is relying on just one, the common sense exception. The common sense exemption only applies, quote, where it can be seen with certainty that there is no possibility that the activity in question may have a significant effect on the environment. Home remodels, pumpkin patches, lease amendments, these are the types of things that usually qualify for common sense exception. Here, staff says the only action being taken is interpretation of the zoning code. We aren't reviewing any particular project. We're just telling you what the code means. Thus, there's no way that this can have an impact on the environment. Respectfully, that's absolutely mistaken. This commission isn't just interpreting the code. That's what the city attorney's office is for. You're making a discretionary decision here based on findings to authorize or reject battery storage in the M2 zone. And that decision will have foreseeable effects on the environment. Here you have an applicant appearing at this hearing who plans to build a 9-acre, 10-parcel project. If you approve this zone determination, it's reasonably foreseeable that we're going to get this in the city and other battery storage facilities in the M2 zone. This doesn't qualify for the common sense exemption, and the city must conduct environmental review before it can approve the zone determination. Courts have rejected use of the common sense exemption in similar circumstances, and the commission should do so here. Secondly, California Public Utility Commission rules and regulations illustrate that power substations and battery energy storage facilities are distinguishable types of facilities that have distinct safety concerns. For example, CPUC General Order 174 provides rules for electric utility substations, but doesn't mention battery storage facilities. On the other hand, CPUC has also issued specific safety rules that only apply to battery energy storage facilities, such as the SED safety inspection items for energy storage ratified in April 2017. In fact, that document specifically says, quote, storage technologies also concentrate large amounts of energy in small spaces and require new kinds of safety inspections distinct from those used for existing energy equipment. Considering this, the CPUC, the agency with the most expertise, recognize that the power substations and battery storage facilities are different, and the commission should do so here too.
We have another speaker.
Yes, Ernest Guadiana.
Good evening. My name is Ernest Guadiana, and I represent Bridgeland Resources as well, the owner of several properties surrounding and in the vicinity of Gridstore's proposed project, and the operator of the Santa Fe Springs oil field that has operations not only throughout the city, but specifically on Gridstore's proposed site. Now, you've heard from my colleagues who've listed a host of legal issues as to why this commission should deny the zone determination. But I want to talk about why this commission should deny the zone determination for the good of the city. Now, although this site is zoned M2, Heritage Springs, which is a large residential neighborhood, lies just across the street from the proposed project. This commission has received at least 21 letters from the residents of Heritage Springs strongly opposing the zone determination and urging the commission to prevent this proposed project from proceeding. At the very least, these residents ask that the city be able to study and consider the impacts of the proposed project. And rightly so. By approving the zone determination, the city is effectively approving a project that spans more than 7 football fields, which utilizes new technologies chock-filled with lithium-ion batteries, which have been known to spontaneously catch fire and cause hazardous gases to disperse into surrounding communities, and which would cause significant damage to the residents of Heritage Springs if that were to occur here. Moreover, as noted by my colleagues, not only will approving the zone determination approve Gridstore's project, it will also allow other facilities through the industrial zones within the city without any discretionary review. This city will not be able to place any conditions on these types of projects. In fact, staff has specifically stated that a development plan approval will not be required for this project in the future. Now ask yourself this: what benefit is the city getting by the commission approving this zone determination? Gridstore's project isn't creating any significant jobs in the city, such as a new factory or warehouse would. The city isn't getting any economic benefit from sales tax or an influx of workers spending money in the city. And in fact, the city won't even get priority to use the electricity being stored in this proposed project during times of need. Instead, all I can see is the potential damage this project will potentially cause to the city's citizens and my client. Now, we've seen environmentally hazardous fires impact cities before. Just this week, Torrance had to close its schools and evacuate certain neighborhoods due to the asbestos being dispersed from the fire from the historic airplane hangars. I don't want to see that happen in this city, especially since a fire at the proposed project could be exacerbated by the close proximity to the oil field. And lastly, I want the commission to note that the property owner will not be significantly damaged if the city denies the zone determination. Gridstore itself has noted that there's over 100 permitted and conditionally permitted uses that could be utilized at this site. For these reasons and the reasons noted by my colleagues, we respectfully request that the commission deny the zone determination and give relief to Bridgeland and the residents of Heritage Springs that they won't be working next to a ticking.
Thank you, sir.
Ryan Chalk. Oh, I have. So is Tony Song with your group as well? And what about Jim? Okay, so you guys don't want to speak.
You're going to speak as applicants, and I will as well. We're just making a few comments right now. I'm Philip Babich. I'm an attorney with the law firm Reed Smith. We represent Gridstore, the applicant. What does the city get from this project? Well, the city gets to help reduce greenhouse gas emissions. The city gets to help the state meet its mandates. The city gets to help be a part of the clean energy economy. And that's critical. And it's critical because everyone knows that we're facing a climate crisis right now. And that's why the state has set forth mandates, which staff has clearly set forth, and I don't need to go through anymore. I do want to emphasize that renewable energy sources and battery energy storage projects are the only way we're going to reach and meet our zero emissions goal. And it's not surprising that an oil company would oppose these projects. In its opposition, Bridgeland blows out of proportion two main issues. One, the effect of the commission approving the zone determination, and two, the supposed hazards of battery energy storage systems. Gridstore and my colleagues are going to address the second point, the supposed hazards, but let me just make one point for now, and that is that it's alarming that Bridgestone told this commission by letter November 10th that, quote, catastrophic battery storage failure can occur and have occurred frequently. Well, if this were true, and it's not, Bridgeland would have cited more than the handful of examples that they already cited in their September 7th letter. One incident that is talked about throughout the articles they cite twice has to do with the facility in Valley Vista. And in that case, the battery energy storage project operated exactly the way it was supposed to operate. The fire only lasted for about 45 minutes. It was put out by its own safety systems. No one was injured in that fire. And those are the sort of features that are present in these types of energy projects. And again, they're blowing this out of proportion. Now, on the first point, I want to say quickly in my last few minutes or few seconds here, that Bridgeland gives you the impression, and the commission knows better than this, it gives you the impression you have no discretion whatsoever. The city's going to have to live with this sprouting of battery energy storage projects throughout the city. This is nonsense. The city's review procedures clearly set forth steps for the planning department to review, for your fire department to review, for your building department to review, and not only review, attach conditions, and then you, planning commission, have the final say on the project. I'm happy to answer questions during the applicant's time to speak, especially on the CEQA exemption, and my colleagues will be able to speak as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
So Ryan and Tony will not be speaking. Okay. Jim Eskelson? Okay, so then no other speakers on your group. Okay, perfect. Okay. That's all for the speakers, Madam Chair, and there's nobody via Zoom that wants to speak on this matter.
Okay, so then hearing none, we have anything that would, let's see, okay, we would like to close the public hearing at 6:35. I would like to call upon the city attorney, Christy J. Smith, to provide specific instructions regarding the entitlement before the Planning Commission this evening, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to remind the commission that you do not have a project before you, so there's no project location. You're not approving anything in regard to a specific battery storage. All you are doing is making an interpretation of your code. You're making a determination of is battery storage appropriate, and if so, what zone it goes into, as well as whether it's a similar use as staff has indicated. So that's all your determination is going to do tonight. Any future project will still have to go through the steps in the process. So you're, again, not approving a location, you're not approving a project, you're just making a zoning determination. And because of that, I'm going to address the comment regarding CEQA. CEQA was done because in the exemption, the common sense exemption is the appropriate exemption, because again, you're not making a determination of a specific location or project. CEQA does not require you to speculate as to what a project's going to be, how big it's going to be, where it's going to be located, what the ultimate is. When you're doing a determination and interpreting your code, all you're doing is interpreting your code. There's no other specific other CEQA that you could do for this action. So the exemption is the appropriate exemption, contrary to what the attorneys have said. Thank you.
Thank you. And do any of the commissioners have any comments regarding this matter? This is the time for our deliberation to begin. Commissioner?
I would love to know the place of residence of
Thank you, sir. Commissioner? None? Okay. So we go to, is there a motion to approve resolution number 250-2023 for zone determination, case number 2023-1? I ask again for a motion. If not, it dies. If there is no motion, it dies.
No, you need to have a motion one way or the other. So if it's the commission's position that you disagree with staff, then you make a motion saying, we don't think that this should go in any zone.
Because
So
it's
you
just on-
do the opposite. If you have more questions of staff, you can ask more questions of staff before you make the determination. So you either approve it, you approve it with changes, or you disagree with staff and deny it.
Understood.
You would basically make a zoning determination that if it doesn't fit within the city, then that's what you're saying.
Understood. Commissioners?
Question. Well, last thing I want to do is bring any kind of safety risk to the city, obviously, and surrounding communities. However, I know there's a push to go green. We need a place to store energy. So we're kind of like cut right in the middle. I've heard a lot of bad things about, lithium batteries. You can't ship them over the mail. There's like they have a tendency to explode. But obviously, probably this storage facility is obviously far more advanced, and I guess they could put out a fire if it did catch fire. My concern is just the potential risk being a little too close to residences. And now I did hear both sides. One of them is, what is the benefit of having this storage facility there? It doesn't create jobs, tax revenue, or anything else, but it brings energy that we're able to store. But I'm wondering if this could be, I don't disagree with the idea, but probably the location, maybe closer to the mountain range, away from people in the event that something like this would happen.
Commissioner, I think this is just for our interpretation
no
of the
location.
thing
So-
itself, not,
Yeah, my apologies. So you know, they're just the thoughts that are going through my head at the moment.
So again, this is on the interpretation of this, not on the specific candidate, please. So for deliberation, excellent. I'd like a motion on this, please, so we can discuss. Okay, so on those that are going to speak would be for the experts, not on the actual company, but on this related. So we again are, if you can explain.
So again, it's a zone determination. You're making a decision today as to whether or not battery storage facility would be allowed in the M2 zone. That is all that you're being asked to do today. You're not being asked to determine whether or not there's going to be a facility at a specific location or what the effects are, good or bad, on a battery facility use. It's specifically will battery facility type uses be allowed in the M2 zone. That is the decision that you have before you today, no more, no less.
I'll move.
Can I have a second? If not, I second. So it's moved by Commissioner Jimenez, second by Commissioner Carbajal. Planning Secretary, roll vote.
Commissioner Flores,
Aye.
Commissioner Jimenez.
Aye.
Commissioner Mora. Vice Chair Ayala,
Nay.
Chair Carbajal,
Aye,
passes 3-2.
so ordered. Planning Commissioner, please, Attorney.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The commission's action on this item shall become effective 14 days after receipt by applicant of written notice of the commission's action. The applicant and or any other interested party may file an appeal of the commission's action to the city council. The appeal must be in writing and filed with the city clerk within the previously mentioned 14-day period. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Going on to number 2, public hearing, alcohol sales conditional use permit, case number 86, and adoption of resolution number 251-2023, a request to allow the operation and maintenance of the storage, wholesale sales, and distribution of alcohol beverages. I would like to call upon Code Enforcement Officer Luis Colasso to provide a presentation regarding item number 2.
Thank you. Commissioners, the location of this request is on the northern part of the city, more specifically at 13701 Excelsior, and that's on the northeast corner of Spring and Excelsior. That area of the location, again, it's on the northeast corner of Spring and Excelsior. As you can see from this aerial, every business or every development around the area is constructed with warehouse industrial type uses. So it's consistent to what the use is now. The applicant is also an is a warehouse distributor of smoking accessories like butane, paper wraps, anything that has to do with cigarettes or smoking. Most of their clients are like mini stores, liquor stores. One of their most notable clients is 7-Eleven. And because they are catering to these type of uses, which are liquor stores, mini marts, They found that there's an interest for alcohol. So they're proposing to also store and distribute alcohol from this location and have it available for a wholesale type of use. Again, there's a few of the items that are stored here. This is again on the big package type distribution. It's not like go to a market and pick up these things individually. So they're highly packed and moved out from the location. There are some customers that will come in and pick up some of their merchandise from the location. But again, it's not, it's in the bulk type activity rather than individually wrapped or things of that, or a retail type use. Along with the request for a conditional use permit, the applicant is also petitioning to ABC for a type 9 beer and wine importer license and a type 17 beer and wine wholesaler. This matter was publicly notified through the mail for property owners within 500 feet of the location, and it was also published in the newspaper. So public notices were met and complete and complied with. Okay, going back to CEQA, considering that the building and the property is already built and no new improvements are proposed, staff finds that the request is categorically exempt pursuant to the section 15301 and no additional environmental documents are required by law. We have 10 findings within your staff report or considerations. They're listed in the staff report. Staff does not believe that there will be any negative impact to the general area for this permit approval. And staff recommends that the Planning Commission move to place this item on the City Council's agenda with a recommendation of approval. That concludes my presentation. I can answer any questions if you'd like.
Have any questions for this item? Okay, the public hearing is now open at 6:46. I would like to call upon the applicant if they wish to speak. Please approach the podium or use the raise hand function at this time.
The applicant's not present.
Thank you, sir. Are there any questions from online or anything? Okay, do any of the commissioners have any questions for the applicant, even though he's not here? Were there any? Okay, is there anyone in the audience wishing to speak? And I believe that was no. Okay, then I would like to close the public hearing at 6:48. Do any of the commissioners at this time have comments regarding this matter? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve resolution number 251-2023 for alcohol conditional use permit, case number 86? Do we have a motion, please?
Move.
Commissioner Mora, may I have a second?
Second.
Commissioner Ayala, Planning Secretary, please vote, call vote.
Commissioner Flores,
Aye.
Commissioner Jimenez,
Aye.
Commissioner Mora,
Aye.
Vice Chair Ayala,
Aye.
Chair Carbajal,
Aye,
passes 5-0.
so ordered. Planning Commissioner Attorney, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The commission's action on this item shall become effective 14 days after receipt by the applicant of written notice of the commission's action. The applicant and or any other interested party may file an appeal of the commission's action to the City Council. The appeal must be in writing and filed with the city clerk within the previously mentioned 14-day period.
Thank you. Number 3, public hearing. Public hearing to consider the proposed zone text amendments to ensure that the city's zoning ordinance is aligned with the state's accessory dwelling unit ADU and junior accessory dwelling unit JADU statutes. I would like to call upon Associate Planner Jimmy Wong to provide a presentation regarding item number 3, please.
Good evening, Commissioner. Item number 3 is zone text amendment accessory dwelling unit ADU. The proposed zone text amendment will involve section 155.003 definition, section 155.644 accessory dwelling unit, and section 155.644.1 junior accessory dwelling unit of the city municipal code. As mentioned previously, the zone text amendment will ensure that the city zoning ordinance is aligned with the state ADU and JADU statute. A little background on the city and ADU. In March 2017, the city council adopted ordinance number 1084 to align the city zoning ordinance with the updated state ADU and JADU regulation. In 2021, the city was selected by Southern California Association of Governments, SCAG, and the State Department of Housing and Community Development to participate in advanced ADU implementation. One of the project primary deliverable is update the city ADU and JADU ordinance to align with the state law. As of January 1st, 2023, a new set of state ADU law, SB 897, AB 2221, and AB 916 have taken effect. An attachment regarding those regulation, attachment B was attached to the staff report for your review. Sorry, I guess I missed a page. Yeah, so city staff and the SCAG consultant Woodson Associate work closely to develop a proposed zone text amendment related to the ADU and JADU. Alongside with the update, Woodson Associate have suggested further amendment to promote ADU and JADU production in the city, within the city. After a thorough review with city staff and city attorney office, we found that some of the provision proposed by the Woodson Associate does not align with the city general plan and land use goal and policy. As a result, some of those proposed change from the consultant were excluded from the staff recommended final draft zone text amendment. So as part of the staff report, there are two versions of the zone text amendment. The first one is attachment C, which is proposed by the by the consultant, Woodson Associate, and attachment D is proposed by staff, and that's the one that staff is recommend adopting. Here's a list of provision that staff have accepted from the suggestion from the consultant. Here's an example. For example, the consultant is suggesting to increase allowable square footage of an ADU to be for more than one bedroom ADU to be 1,200 square feet instead of 1,000. And in addition to that, also eliminate the floor area restriction on attached ADU. So staff recommend to accept those changes by allowing a 1,200 square feet ADU. It gives the resident more flexibility on design and space option. In addition, the current floor area restriction on attached ADU is not consistent with the existing zone. So by eliminating that, it will be less confusing for residents. And here's the list of provisions that staff have rejected from the recommendation from the consultant. Example is parking. The consultants recommend removing all parking requirement for ADU, and staff recommend to retain the parking requirement due to the fact that there are a lot of concern from the resident regarding on-site parking. Staff have provided a detailed table on the staff report. If any of the provision you want to discuss, we can discuss it at the end of the presentation. Since there's a lot of provision, I don't want to go over all of them at this time. For CEQA finding, according to California Public Resource Code, section 21080.17, CEQA does not apply to the adoption of an ordinance by a city or county to implement the provision of the state ADU law. Therefore, the proposed zone text amendment should be exempt from CEQA. A public hearing notice was posted on November 2nd, 2023 in the City Hall, Town Center Hall, kiosk, and City Library. It was also published in Whittier Daily News on November 2nd, 2023. So far, there's no comment regarding the issue. For finding, the proposed zone text amendment meet and exceed the minimum provision outlined in section 65852.2 of the Government Code, which is the state ADU law. And the proposed zone text amendment is consistent with the Santa Fe Spring General Plan. And the zone text amendment meet the requirement as contained in planning and zoning law, Government Code section 65800 to 65912. Therefore, staff is recommending adopting resolution 252-2023, which incorporate the Planning Commission finding and action regarding the matter, and also recommending that the Planning Commission to recommend that the City Council approve and adopt ordinance number 1134 related to the proposed zoning ordinance. And that concludes my presentation. I do have the consultant over Zoom, and he will be presenting the portion.
Okay, so with this, do any of the commissioners have any questions on this item for the planning staff?
I do have a question.
Yes, sir.
What is the current parking requirement right now?
So by state law, if the resident is within a point, half a mile walking distance from a transit stop, they are not required to place the parking. And if they were to convert the, let's say, a garage into a ADU, they are not required to replace that parking. So based on our staff survey, majority of the resident in the city is within half a mile distance, walking distance to a bus stop, so they are qualified for the exemption for parking.
That is what the staff is recommending.
That's the existing state law, and we can't go above and beyond that, or more restrictive than that parking requirement. We're recommending to stay with the state law and not eliminate any parking requirement.
Any other questions from the commissioners? Go ahead, sir.
With the increased square footage of the ADUs, is the lot coverage going to change, or is it going to maintain the same?
The lot coverage will remain the same. So the underneath lot coverage is 40% in the R1 zone. The 12,000 square feet will be the minimum the city have to allow for, which based on our study, is only for ADU that have 2 bedroom or more, which is more flexible, and the design wise, it create better design.
And what about the side, front, and back setbacks?
That will remain as recommended by staff. We will retain the 4 feet setback from the rear and the side. As for front setback, that will be per state law, we have to allow for it if that's the last resort. However, we do have a provision in our code that state we have to consider the back, the rear and the side setback first before we can allow for the front.
Any other questions from the commissioners? At this time, the public hearing is now open at 6:58. Is there anyone from the audience wishing to speak on this matter? If so, please use the raise hand function or approach the podium. Did we get any cards? Thank you. You could speak at this time. Please state your name and city of residence. Again, please note there is a 3-minute time limit.
Oh, hello, this is Garland Woodsong. I'm the consultant. Are you ready for me now?
Yes, sir.
Do you want me to go on video?
No, no need for that.
Okay. Jimmy, are you ready to advance the slides?
Yes.
Okay. So just a reminder that this is the Santa Fe Springs ADU project is funded by HCD and managed by the Southern California Associations of Governments through the REAP 1 Regional Early Action Program grant source. Next slide. Some of the key deliverables of this project include an ADU homeowner handbook and frequently asked questions, a staff ADU training manual, an ADU calculator that lives on the Santa Fe Springs ADU homepage. As this updated ADU ordinance, branding for ADUs in the city, including for the webpage, informational resources for ADU applicants, as well as 6 sets of ADU plans that we hope will be pre-approved very soon for use by the residents of the city. Next slide. And ADUs have become more and more popular in Santa Fe Springs. And indeed, ADUs were 100% of housing production in the city for 3 of the last 4 years that we have numbers for now. And so they're becoming more and more popular with residents. Next slide. And their popularity is being driven, at least in part, by changes to state law. So next slide. So the mandatory recommendations which staff has brought forward include that cities must approve ADUs ministerially based on objective standards such as size, configuration, setback, and placement on the lot. And any elements of the ADU ordinance that may require potentially subjective determination, such as those that use the word compatible or compatibility, must be removed from the ordinance. Next slide. So currently, the minimum allowable maximum ADU height from state law that the ordinance implements is 16 feet, but there is no maximum height specified by the state. And so we do recommend increasing the allowable height for all ADUs in the city to 25 feet to synchronize attached and detached ADU heights and allow for 2-story ADUs. In particular, with allowing larger ADUs on the lot of up to 1,200 square feet, allowing those to be 2-story ADUs means that they would only take up to 600 square foot on the lot, which can reduce the impact on lot coverage and leave more of the yard and the driveway for barbecues and outdoor use. Next slide. We also recommend allowing ADUs in the front setback by right. State law exempts ADUs from several development standard requirements if adhering to those requirements would prevent the construction of an ADU up to 800 square feet. And AB 2221 has added front setbacks to the list of requirements that can be waived, meaning that if an ADU of up to 800 square foot does not fit in the backyard, such an ADU is now allowed in the front setback. And so what we recommend is regulating ADUs since they're now allowed by the state in the front setback under certain conditions. We recommend that the city write some development standards for when this eventuality might occur, so that there are rules that would govern ADUs in the front setback, including how far they might need to be set back from the curb or the sidewalk line, whether there might need to be line of sight protections for cars entering and exiting the driveway, whether you might want to still have standards for landscaping in the front setback that accommodate an ADU or other such considerations. Next slide. Unpermitted ADUs are covered by state law, but there are some recommendations that we made in a report to streamline the approval process for unpermitted ADUs that do not threaten health or safety, such as permanently removing owner occupancy requirements. This is now also state law that there are no owner occupancy requirements. Next slide. Also want to let you know that coming up, AB 1332 requires all jurisdictions in the state to deploy an online pre-approved ADU marketplace by January 1st, 2025. We're delivering to you 6 sets of plans that will precede this marketplace, and we hope that the Gateway Cities Council of Governments will be able to work with you to spin up such a marketplace that these plans can then be listed within. But there's another section of the law that says that any ADU design that has been previously approved in the city, someone can take that design and ask to place it on their lot and use it as a pre-approved ADU design. They can also ask to bring in a plan from another city and have it admitted to the marketplace as a pre-approved plan. And once a pre-approved plan is in the marketplace, or once it's been previously approved in the city, an applicant who applies to build that plan in their lot will need to have their application reviewed and approved or denied within 30 days of submittal, which is a change from the current 60-day rule that currently applies to ADU applications. And so just want to highlight, this is going to require a significant streamlining process that we're working with staff to implement. Next slide. So recommended amendments. Next slide. We had workshops with the residents of Santa Fe Springs in the summer of 2022. We had 2 workshops and we put up these 8 policy choices for residents to vote on, and got this feedback from residents as to the policy choices they would make in terms of changes to ADU policy in the city. So as you can see, the most popular was to remove style compatibility, so that the style of the ADU doesn't have to match that of the main home. The next most popular was 0 setbacks, so to allow ADUs to be built closer than 4 feet to the rear and side property lines, and have the building code rather than zoning code govern those structures to make sure that they're safe, including from fire threats. And then the third most popular choice from the workshops was for 2-story ADUs. And so this feedback from the workshop is what's informed our policy recommendations in response to what we heard loud and clear from residents of the city. Next slide. So we do recommend increasing the detached ADU height allowance to 25 feet citywide. We recommend allowing something called a carriage home in the front setback as one way to comply with that, essentially that loophole that state regulations have introduced to allow ADUs in the front setback under certain conditions. We would propose that the carriage home be the condition, and this would allow a resident to replace their driveway with a garage on the ground floor and an ADU above the garage, and therefore preserve the rest of the yard for pets and family and barbecues, rather than turning it into an ADU. We support staff's recommendation to increase the maximum allowable ADU size to 1,200 square feet, in particular because this will allow more room for intergenerational households. We do recommend removing ADU parking requirements citywide. As Jimmy mentioned, it's likely that more than 90% of the city is already exempt from ADU parking requirements. And so this would just streamline the approval process to remove ADU parking requirements for all the ADUs in the city in the code, so that the resident won't have to demonstrate their distance from a transit stop in order to take advantage of that exemption. We also would recommend monitoring on-street parking and being prepared to manage on-street parking demand with parking permit systems, and we've provided staff with a recommendation on best practices to do so. There's 2 other recommendations. One is to allow 2 ADUs rather than just 1, and 1 ADU per parcel. This would more closely align ADU regulations with SB 9, but give residents the benefit of the streamlining provisions that apply to ADUs. And we also recommend that the city implement new regulations that were just passed this year. That would allow, it's AB 1033 was just signed into law on October 11th, and it allows any city in the state to adopt a regulation that would permit ADUs to be sold as condominiums separately from the main house. We do recommend that the city become one of the first jurisdictions to adopt this regulation and to allow the separate sale of ADUs as condos. For the simple reason that it would reduce the price of housing, and because an ADU is sold at a lower price point, than a larger single-family home. And so that would make available for sale housing for sale to residents of Santa Fe Springs at a lower price than is currently available in the marketplace. And so we think that this is one way to increase opportunities for home ownership in the city. Next slide. In terms of streamlining, we do recommend, and we understand that the city is currently working towards a fully online concurrent review process by all departments that touch ADU approvals. And we believe this could at least cut in half the amount of time it takes for an ADU application to be approved. And we also recommend and understand the city is already working to contract with a private firm to begin reviewing ADU plans in-house and to no longer be solely reliant on Los Angeles County to review ADU applications. We believe that this will also streamline the process and reduce the time it takes to approve ADU applications. Next slide. We also recommend, and this is a complicated one, we realize, but we still make this recommendation, that the city of Santa Fe Springs work with the League of California Cities to ask the state legislature to change the distribution of property taxes in the state. So ADUs have the potential to bring in at least 2 million and possibly over 20 million in property taxes by 2045, but almost none of this increase in revenue will come to the city of Santa Fe Springs. And this is due to legislation that was passed in the 1990s that takes the lion's share of property taxes from new residential growth for smaller jurisdictions in Los Angeles County and distributes it to the County of Los Angeles and to the state of California. Our understanding is that the percentage of this growth in property taxes from residential development is less than 2% currently to the city. And this seems inequitable. And so we highlight that with this slide and in other reports we've given to the city that we feel it's critical that the legislature implement a fix to California's property tax system that assigns a greater share of growth in property tax revenue from new homes to the cities that are promoting and hosting that housing development. Next slide. We also recommend an ADU financing program that is targeted to the 70% of Santa Fe Springs residents who are low to moderate income. And we support the development of a program to finance ADU construction for low to moderate income homeowners and tenants. And we recommend partnering with a local nonprofit or consultancy to offer free or discounted technical assistance to support the ADU development process. Next slide. So again, we recommend that you as Planning Commission recommend to City Council that they work with the Gateway Cities Council of Governments, the Gateway Cities Affordable Housing Trust, the Southern California Association of Governments, and the League of California Cities to implement these recommendations, including to work with the Los Angeles Public Bank to provide ADU construction financing, to lobby for the renewal of the Cal HAFA ADU grant, or the adoption of a similar financial aid program for ADUs, and to lobby for statewide property tax reform to promote housing development. Next slide. We recommend an unpermitted ADU amnesty program based on best practices from other jurisdictions. And that would include resources for residents, free ADU legalization workshops, and perhaps a time-limited legalization program within several year period. That would include low cost or free initial inspections and an anonymous participation option with no risk of penalties or future code enforcement within program parameters for people to come forward to permit their potentially unpermitted ADU. And finally, we recommend partnering with an ADU nonprofit to assist applicants, especially early in the process. Next slide. Next steps for the ADU program include this process to update the ADU ordinance, the establishment of expedited plan check and the pre-approved ADU marketplace next year, working with other jurisdictions and agencies to develop a local or regional ADU financing program, potentially spinning up a local unpermitted ADU amnesty program and supportive resources, and working with others to lobby for property tax reform. Next slide. That's all that I have, but I'm happy to stick around if you have any questions.
So at this point, I'd like to close the public hearing at 7:14. Do any of the commissioners have any comments regarding this matter this time? Hearing none. I'm sorry.
That's okay. There probably is unpermitted ADUs already out there. I mean, he spoke about the amnesty program. So will those people that, are we gonna notify them, well, once we get through this, that they have the potential or the ability to call, have the city come out, inspect, bring everything to code? Is that what I'm getting from that presentation?
If I could just jump in, I don't believe that we know who has unpermitted ADUs. That's not something that's knowable because they're not permitted. And so the idea is to put the word out to the public that they would have access to these zero risk inspections, and that there is a legal pathway to receive a permit to legalize those ADUs, working with the city to identify any issues raised in the inspections process.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? If not, is there a motion to adopt resolution number 252-2023, which incorporates the Planning Commission's findings and actions regarding this matter, and recommend to the City Council approve and adopt ordinance number 1134 to effectuate the proposed amendments to the text of the city's zoning ordinance? May we have a motion, please?
Motion.
Commissioner Ayala, may I have a second? Commissioner Jimenez, Planning Secretary, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Flores,
Nay.
Commissioner Jimenez.
Aye.
Commissioner Mora,
Aye.
Vice Chair Ayala,
Aye.
Chair Carbajal,
Aye.
passes 4-1.
So ordered. Old business, Parkway tree removal appeal decision, resident request for removal of Parkway tree at 10318 Harvest Avenue. I'd like to call upon the Director of Public Works, James Enriquez, to present item number 4, but I don't believe he's here. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Quan.
We spoke to the Director of Public Works prior to this meeting and apologized for any inconveniences that this may have caused, but there was a request made to continue this matter until the December meeting.
Okay. So for that, do we need a motion then to continue till our December meeting?
There's no act, right, it's just old
No.
business,
Okay,
right? So you're not, it's not, you haven't
excellent.
advertised it, right? Okay.
Okay, so then moving right along. Consent agenda calendar. All items listed under consent calendar are considered to be routine. Any items a planning commissioner wishes to discuss should be designated at this time. All other items may be approved in a single motion, such as approval will also waive the reading of any ordinance. For consent items number 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, is there a motion and a second for approval?
Move.
Commissioner Mora, may I have a second?
Second.
Commissioner Ayala, Planning Secretary, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Flores,
Aye.
Commissioner Jimenez,
Aye.
Commissioner Mora,
Aye.
Vice Chair Ayala,
Aye.
Chair Carbajal,
Aye.
passes 5-0.
So ordered. Planning Commission Attorney, please.
Thank you. The commission's action on this item shall become effective 14 days after receipt by the applicant of written notice of the commission's action. The applicant and/or any other interested party may file an appeal of the commission's action to the city council. The appeal must be in writing and filed with the city clerk within the previous mentioned 14-day period.
Thank you.
Madam
Sta-
Chair, if I can interject,
Yes, ma'am.
Resident Ray Ishii, who is the applicant for the tree appeal, is on via Zoom and has his hand raised. Although decision cannot be made without Director of Public Works presence, I would like to hear what he has to say since he does have his hand raised, if that's okay with everybody.
Sorry, let him speak. You can speak.
Ishe? Mr. Ishe?
Is his hand still raised?
May we go to staff announcements until they try?
That's fine.
So until we can hear something at this point, let's move agenda to staff announcements, please.
Commissioners, I have a couple of brief announcements. First, if you recall, 2 weeks ago, we had our first annual Portos with the Planners event in recognition of National Community Planning Month. It was a great event. It was our first event. It was a platform that allowed the community to interact with staff as well as listen to updates on any future development projects. We received overwhelmingly positive feedback and we'll likely do that again next year, if not sooner. Second item. I have 4 updates on development projects. The first update is regards to Lakeland and Laurel housing development. You may recall back in August, the project site on the northwest corner began grading. And as of November earlier this week, there was framing done for the housing portion of the project. I believe that housing portion is the Whole Child development. Next project is a development located at what we call the Kuntz cul-de-sac, which will be vacated as part of the project. Demolition has begun. I don't believe all buildings have been demolished, even though it says it here. But the proposal is for 2 industrial buildings, one at 69,000 and another at 75,000, which was approved by the Planning Commission earlier this year. Next. Next is a project on Greenstone across the street from the fire station. If you drive by, it's substantially completed. They're just basically doing hardscape and landscape at this point. But the proposal here that was approved by the Planning Commission also is a 144,000 square foot industrial building. Very nice, attractive building. Complements other buildings in the area. Next. And lastly is it's a self-storage project on Norwalk Boulevard. This is across the street from Norwalk Residence. It's at the border of the city. And it's slated, and the proposal is for a 4-story self-storage building, total of 127,000 square feet. There's a retail office located at the front of the property. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Any other staff announcements? No? Okay. Anything? Okay. Okay, any of commissioners have any comments to report on? Commissioner Ayala, why don't we go with you first, sir?
I just want to say congratulations and good luck to the Santa Fe High School football team on making it to the 3rd round of the CIF playoffs. It is the first time since 2010 that they have made it to CIF playoffs. I think it's a pretty big deal. I wish we would have done a better job as a city to notify the residents of it because there wasn't a lot of support at the last couple of games, unless it was like a parent of a player. I think we could have done a better job of promoting that to the city. But good luck to them. They're actually playing, they're not playing at home this time. It's about 2 hours away. So if you are available to make it, I think they would really appreciate the drive and the support.
Yes. And hopefully we can advise maybe the city manager's office of the accomplishment of our football team so that they have some sort of recognition, please. Commissioner Mora.
Merry Christmas again. But the thing is like the Christmas floats come into town. So first Saturday, which is December 2nd, the tree lighting ceremony. So most residents are all already aware, but you guys come on down for cookies and chocolate and coffee and visit with Santa. And then we get started that following Tuesday. The plans were altered a little bit, just make sure that there's nothing wrong with the floats when it does go out on Tuesday. So give us a one work day to get that done. And other than that, just happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Flores?
I don't have any now.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Jimenez?
Yeah, I would just also like to echo Commissioner Ayala's congratulations on the Santa Fe Springs or Santa Fe High School football team. It's just, there's a whole new outlook on the school right now with some of my baseball players are playing football now. So everyone's coming together as a school to get other athletes involved in different sports, and coaches are coming together, and it's a really great dynamic, and wish them the best of luck. Third round, next, if they win this, this is the semifinals. So if they win this, they go to the finals. If they win the finals, they go to state. So congratulations and best of luck. That's all I have to say.
Awesome. And for myself, I attended the planning department's basic meet and greet with Commissioner Mora. And very informative, very positive. My only concern would be, I really hope this city were to advertise more of this department's doings or what we're going to do for the residents of over 18,000 plus, and we had 5. But very informative. They kept on asking questions. But again, I think the city needs, at least on their media department, to advertise more of these audiences, what we're going to have these meet and greets, because you take the time to be here. We had a great presentation, and for the city to not know, and I'm constantly being asked questions, what about this? What about this? The planning department did their part. They gave an excellent presentation, and I only saw it on our city's social media once. So I think next time when we do this, we really need to get on, because you people are the best in my book. I've already made that clear. But the information given to the residents that came, and they were asking quite a bit for just them, we'd get more people if it was more supported by our city. Again, piggyback on our youngsters, our youth that are in CIF, and we haven't heard anything yet. So there needs to be something on the social media aspect to get this done and appreciate our young youth of this city. So, but again, thank you also to Wayne Morrell for supporting our women's club. This was the first year you didn't win, and I'm sorry. But we did really good, and of course, we're going to continue that over. I'd like to also address something that came to me on the grant program that's being handled currently. If we do this again, I would like to see, hopefully, that the city manager would put this in the hands of the planning department. I've been asked by many residents, or told by many residents, when they put in delayed response. Myself, I waited 3 weeks to get something from them. When you also put in your paperwork, delayed response on what is happening, taking multiple weeks to say, oh, you're number 99 on the list. To me, that's unacceptable. You have people that are trying to get on this round of grants, and when you have another office handling it, maybe they have already too much on their plate. Even though they signal someone, it's not being handled correctly. So next time, if we do this, since it's under that, I think it should be, or if we can suggest to the city manager that this be handled in-house with our planning department, because I know when I direct people to planning, something has happened within 24, 48 hours. They should not have to wait and find out later you're not even somewhat even close. So that's just there. Let's see. I think that's about it. I attended our Fiestas de Octubre en Noviembre festivities, with some of us, our commissioners went, and planning department. I thought it was really great. The event itself was huge. At least I went on Sunday and it was ridiculous with everybody here, but it was great. It was fun. So again, happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Let us have a wonderful and blessed holiday season, and go planning department. With that, I'd like to adjourn this meeting at 7:30 PM.